These two rose bushes are twins. Same variety, same nursery, lifted off the same shelf and planted the same afternoon, side by side in a single bed. Now it's the height of summer, and somehow they've become two completely different plants. One is a chest-high explosion of blooms, the canes bowing under the weight of the flowers, fresh buds stacking up faster than the old ones can fade. The other is knee-high and wiry, a few yellowing leaves hanging on, pushing out a single stunted bud that never quite opens. Same bed, same sun, same hose. It isn't luck, it isn't a green thumb, and it isn't a better variety. These two are identical. So, what does the big one know that the little one doesn't? The answer is 9 forgotten tricks. And the best part? Several of them are sitting in your kitchen scraps or the back of your shed right now for free. Stack them together and a rose doesn't just improve a little, it shifts into a completely different gear. But here's what I'm really promising you, because this isn't a list you'll forget by tomorrow. By the time we're done, you'll be able to walk up to any struggling rose, yours, your neighbor's, anyone's, and point straight to which of these 9 it's starving for. And no, I'm not going to waste your time telling you to give it more sun and prune it in spring. You already know that, and it's not why your rose is stuck. I'm going to hand you the actual machinery, the real reason one rose takes off like a rocket, while the one right beside it just sits there sulking. And keep one eye on number 6. When we get there, your gut is going to scream that I've got it backwards, that I'm telling you to wreck your own plant on purpose. Stay with me until we hit it, because it's worth the wait. It's one of the most powerful moves on this whole list. Let's get going. Trick 1. Feed the soil's pH, not just the plant. Before you reach for any fancy fertilizer, here's the one basic thing nearly everybody gets wrong. A rose only eats well in slightly acidic to neutral soil, somewhere around a pH of 6 to 6.5. Let it drift too alkaline, and it won't matter how much you feed it, because the key nutrients get chemically locked up and the roots simply can't pull them in. You're pouring food into a plant that can't open the cupboard. The forgotten fix is the one you throw away every morning. Spent coffee grounds. They release a slow trickle of organic nitrogen that soil bacteria break down into leafy, vigorous top growth and stronger stems, and the fine grounds gently improve the soil's structure and water holding while they're at it. The catch most people miss: dry the grounds first, scatter them thinly around the root zone, and keep them off the canes. Pile them on thick and wet, and you do the opposite of helping you form a crust that seals the soil off from air and water, and the overload of nitrogen can scorch the leaves instead of feeding them. Get the soil right, and you've effectively switched the plant's lights on, because every leaf up top is a solar panel, and that's an idea we'll keep coming back to. Trick 2. Bury the banana peels. Nitrogen builds leaves, but for fast canes and serious flower power, a rose also needs potassium and phosphorus, and there's a free, fast-acting source of both that most people compost or toss. Banana peels? Here's the mechanism. Potassium is the plant's water valve. It works the tiny pores on the leaves that open and close too. Let the rose breathe and photosynthesize, and it keeps every cell firm and pumped up with water. Phosphorus is part of the ATP molecule itself, the energy currency every living cell runs on, and it drives roots to branch out hard and claim more ground. Chop the peels small, bury them an inch or two down around the root zone, deep enough that they break down fast and don't draw pests, and they'll hand the plant both minerals right where the roots are working. Prefer a liquid? Steep chopped peels in a bucket of water for a few days, and pour that brown water on as a quick feed. Trick 3. The old rose grower's alfalfa secret. Now for the trick that separates the gardeners with perfectly nice roses from the ones growing absolute monsters, and it's a lever that's been quietly passed around rose societies for decades while somehow never reaching the mainstream advice. Alfalfa. Plain alfalfa meal or pellets, yes, the exact same stuff sold as animal feed. So why would a scoop of dried fodder do anything? Because alfalfa is loaded with a natural compound called triacontanol, a genuine plant growth stimulant. It revs the plant's metabolism, helps it take in more carbon dioxide, and fires up its enzymes. And it's especially good at triggering what rose growers call basal breaks, those thick, vigorous new canes that come rocketing straight up out of the base of the plant. Hold on to that phrase, basal breaks. It comes back later. Those are the canes that rebuild and enlarge an entire bush in a single season. Work a few handfuls of alfalfa into the soil, or steep it into a tea and pour it on, and you've given the rose the fuel and the signal to grow at the same time. Trick 4. Pulverize your eggshells. You can feed a rose flawlessly, and still end up with thin, floppy canes that fold over the first time they carry a heavy bloom. That's almost always calcium. Calcium is the mortar between the bricks. It builds the structural glue that locks plant cells together, and when it runs short, new growth comes in, weak, soft, and spindly. The forgotten source is eggshells, which are almost pure calcium carbonate. But here's the part that actually decides whether it works. A whole or roughly crushed shell will sit in your soil for years, doing nothing useful. You have to rinse them, dry them, and grind them to a fine powder. That powder has a huge surface area, so the natural acids in the soil can dissolve it and release calcium the roots can actually take up. Coarse, crunchy shell is just garden confetti. Fine powder is food. Trick 5. Soak the roots. Keep the leaves dry. Here's the habit, quietly capping more roses than any feeding mistake ever could: how you water. Most of us grab the hose and spray the whole plant down from the top, leaves and all. It feels thorough, like a proper drink. It's actually holding your rose back in 2 ways at once. The first is depth. A quick spray only dampens the top inch of dirt, and roots won't chase water they can already reach, so they sprawl sideways near the surface, where they cook in a dry spell and leave the plant gasping the first day you forget to water. Flip it around, give the base one long, slow soak, then leave it alone for a few days. Make the roots hunt for moisture, and they drive down deep, and a deep root system is what powers a fast-growing rose. The second is disease, and it's the one almost nobody connects. Every time water sits on the leaves, you're handing black spot and mildew the wet surface their spores need to take hold, and once those diseases strip the foliage, the plant loses the very leaves it grows with. Picture each leaf as a solar panel. Lose half of them, and you've cut the plant's power in half. So, aim the water at the soil, keep the foliage dry, and if you ever do wet the leaves, do it at sunrise so they dry off within the hour. Trick 6. Sacrifice the blooms on purpose. This is the one I asked you to wait for, and it's going to sound insane. If you want a rose that grows faster and flowers more, you have to start taking its flowers away. Sometimes the very first blooms of the season, the ones you've been counting down to have to go, I get it. You planted a rose to get roses, and here's a stranger on the internet telling you to snip them off. It feels like sabotage. It's the opposite. And the moment the mechanism clicks, you'll never look at a fading bloom the same way again. So here's what's actually happening, because the why is the whole point. Flowering is the most expensive thing a rose does all year. The second a bud swells and opens, it turns into a drain. The plant rushes its sugars and building blocks up out of the roots and stems and pours them into that flower and the seed pod forming behind it. Every bit of that is fuel no longer going into growth. Now turn it around. Snip each bloom off the moment it starts to fade before it can ever set seed, and all that fuel suddenly has nowhere to go but back into new shoots and the next round of buds. That's the real reason a dead-headed rose blooms in wave after wave, while a neglected one gives you a single burst and quits. And there's a bolder version for a young or first-year plant. Pinch the buds off before they even open. Give up the entire first season of flowers on purpose. Every scrap of energy the plant would have spent showing off goes straight into roots, canes, and structure instead. You trade 1 year of so-so blooms for a powerhouse that outgrows and outflowers everything around it for the next decade. It feels completely backwards right up until the afternoon you walk outside and the thing has simply exploded. That's the trick nobody believes until they've watched it happen with their own eyes. Trick 7. Prune like you mean it. If sacrificing the flowers made you flinch, this one's going to push you further, because the biggest thing standing between most people and a monster rose is a timid pair of hands on the pruners. They nip the tips, terrified of taking too much, and the plant reads that caution as a cue to stay small. The payoff is thin, tangled, tired growth. Roses want to be cut hard. A heavy prune doesn't injure the plant, it wakes it up. When you take a cane right down, you strip away the buds at the top that were hogging the plant's attention, and all that stored root energy gets funneled into a handful of low buds instead of spread thin across dozens. Those few buds answer with thick, powerful new shoots. Just be deliberate about it. Cut on a slant roughly 45 degrees, about a quarter inch above a bud that points outward, away from the plant's center. The slant sheds rain so water can't pool on the wound and rot it. The outward bud throws its new shoot outward too, hollowing the bush into an open, goblet shape, and that open middle lets sunlight reach the inner leaves and lets a breeze pass straight through, drying the foliage and staving off black spot and powdery mildew before they can get started. Sun in, air through, clean solar panels again. 2 small habits make it all pay off. Wipe the blades with rubbing alcohol between cuts so you're not carrying infection from cane to cane, and bag or burn any diseased clippings instead of composting them, since the spores ride out the whole winter in a compost heap. Trick 8. The cheap magnesium fix. Here's a fix so cheap it almost feels like a joke, and it solves 2 separate problems at once. The lever is magnesium, and the easiest source is plain Epsom salt, the kind sold in any drugstore for sore muscle soaks. Why does it matter so much? Because there's a single magnesium atom sitting dead center in every molecule of chlorophyll, the green pigment that catches the light. Let a rose run short, and you'll see it. The older leaves fade to pale yellow between the veins, while the veins themselves stay stubbornly green. That's another set of solar panels limping along at half output. Put the magnesium back and the whole canopy deepens to a rich green, the light catching kicks back into gear, and growth follows right behind. And now the loop I left open earlier pays off. Magnesium is also one of the classic triggers for those basal breaks, the strong new canes erupting from the very base of the plant that I told you to remember back in trick 3. So lay an Epsom salt feed down in spring alongside the alfalfa from trick 3, and you're hitting the plant from 2 angles at once, both of them telling it the same thing: push new canes from the ground up. A tablespoon or 2 scratched into the soil or stirred into a watering can is the entire job. Just go easy if your soil already runs high in magnesium, because piling on too much starts crowding out calcium. Trick 9. Blanket the roots with mulch. The final trick happens entirely underground, out of sight, which is exactly why it gets ignored, and it's where a surprising amount of the race is decided. Rose roots want one thing more than almost anything: steadiness. Bare, exposed soil gives them the opposite. It bakes hard in a heat wave, turns to soup in a downpour, and lurches between hot and cold with every passing day, and each of those lurches is a small shock that makes the plant stall instead of run. The answer is a thick, generous layer of organic mulch, well-rotted compost, bark, leaf mold, shredded leaves, whatever you can get your hands on. That blanket does 4 jobs at once. It evens out the soil temperature so the roots never get jolted. It locks in moisture so they're not swinging between drowned and parched. It smothers the weeds that would otherwise rob your rows of food and water, and as it rots down, it quietly feeds the living soil beneath it. One rule: only hold it back a couple of inches from the base, clear of the graft union, so you're not trapping damp against the bark or coaxing the rootstock to throw up suckers. And give the plant a spot with morning sun while you're at it. Early light burns the dew off fast, which keeps the leaves dry and disease-free, closing the circle on everything we've said about protecting those solar panels. So picture those 2 twins one more time: the chest-high wall of flowers and the wiry little thing barely hanging on a few feet away. You can name every difference between them now, because all 9 tricks really come down to one idea: stop working against the plant. Give it the short list of things it's quietly been asking for, then step back and let it do what it already wants to do. The big twin got the right soil, the buried peels, the alfalfa, the calcium, the deep soak, its flowers taken before they could set seed, a hard and open prune, the magnesium boost, and a calm blanket of mulch. The little one got none of it. Put even a few of these to work, and you'll watch the gap open up yourself, and with all 9 running together, the growth can reach several times what a starved, neglected rose will ever give you. Taller, greener, healthier plants throwing one wave of blooms after another. All right, your turn. Out of these 9, which one have you quietly been getting wrong all this time? Don't be shy about it. For most people, it comes down to the watering or the too gentle pruning. And honestly, there's no shame in either, because just about every beginner's guide out there tells you to do the soft, careful version of all of this. So tell me in the comments which trick you're trying first. I genuinely read them, and they decide what I cover next. If this finally made the whole thing make sense, hit subscribe before you go. I've got a run of these deep dive growing guides lined up, and you won't want to miss what's coming. And don't click away yet. The video sliding onto your screen right now carries straight on from where we just stopped. Go on and be bold with those roses. I'll see you in the next one.